Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dr. Heather ND. In the spirit of Halloween, I want to talk about prayer, magic, and intention, a comparison of the three terms and an examination of their role in health, healing, and changing physiology. Prayer, magic, intention. These are terms we're all familiar with, but what do they really mean? And importantly, in the realm of healthcare, how do they translate into healing practices, the power of the healer, the power of the healee, and change in physiology? In this presentation, the definition of each of these terms will be studied, compared, contrasted, and then explored for their relevance to medicine. The viewer can expect to gain a greater understanding of the subtle differences between prayer, magic, and intention, and their role in affecting healing. This study is important not only because it speaks to major components of many different healing traditions across cultures and time, but also because it's directly relevant to each and every medical interaction and other interaction today. While the complex and even seemingly magical way in which prayer, magic, and intention impacts health and physiology may never be fully explained, and certainly not in this presentation, the better the presence and power of the impact itself is understood, the more heed we will likely be willing to pay to our thoughts, attitudes, mindsets, and desires. And that's we as in medical practitioners and patients alike. We may at least better grasp the importance of minding the mind and our ability to affect outcomes by our thoughts, beliefs, energies, and intentions. But before we dive in head first, why do we care? When asked whether they use prayer or magic when treating patients, most healthcare providers in the Western world today would say no. But what about intention? I trust that intention plays a greater role in not just medical encounters, but our everyday to a much greater extent than maybe we've stopped to consider. Here on the slide are some examples of where intentions might play a role for healers. The intentions are likely to manifest in your answers to these questions. Why do we want to bring patients in our clinic door? What do we hope to offer patients in each encounter? What do we hope to gain from patients in an encounter? What made us sign up for a healing profession in the first place? What is our intention behind using a certain series of acupuncture points or an herbal formula or a homeopathic remedy or even a pharmaceutical drug for a particular patient? And broader, what is our intention for any specific treatment that we use? And again, taking a closer look at prayer, magic, and intention in the health place helps us gain insight into healing modalities used across cultures and times. In other words, it increases cultural competence. And I've listed on the bottom of the slide here some of my absolute favorite books in this general area. So just a few notes before we jump into our first term, which is prayer. Modern conveniences, medicine, and living in general have seemingly disconnected us from nature and have also made exploring the potential of a spiritual or energetic realm beyond that which we can see seem largely irrelevant. But I ask you, what are your beliefs? How do you feel energy, belief, and intention may impact treatment efficacy? Do you believe in the existence of more than just the physical realm? Let's start with prayer. Oxford Languages defines prayer as a solemn request for help or expression of thanks addressed to God or an object of worship, not including the healing power of the divine being to which one prays. The act of prayer alone and the mindset or beliefs surrounding it have health promoting benefits in themselves. According to scientific studies, prayer can affect similar physiologic response as meditation and placebo. While not a requirement, prayer often involves a religious or spiritual group. Community and a strong support network are known to be associated with more positive health outcomes. Prayer to a higher being implies belief in such a being, one that generally is thought to have the power to control the natural world. Such belief often inspires hope and allows a praying person to trust that the higher being has it under control, or won't give me more than I can handle, or is working it out all for the good. This faith benefits health. While the health impacts of the more practical aspects of prayer, such as calmed mental state, increased hope, gratitude, faith, and trust, decreased anxiety, community, sense of being cared for by a higher power, etc., are not as difficult to quantify as, say, the power of the divine being to which one prays to bring about that health. Continued research into the former can help speak at least in part to healing that may come about through prayer, either personal prayer or prayer as intercession for another. Magic. Magic is defined by Oxford Languages as the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Depending on one's beliefs surrounding the supernatural and where the power to influence said events is derived from, magic may be interpreted in varying ways. In the commonly accepted view conjured up by the word, like witches, warlocks, cauldrons, and magic spells, practitioners of magic may invoke the aid of supernatural beings in order to better understand and/or heal a person who has come to them for help. In a less magic sense of the word, magic may describe whatever unknown but not assumed to be supernatural processes allow a certain cause to have a certain effect without scientific explanation. Is something magic? A vast number of ancient and even modern-day healing traditions employ what many in the Western developed world might consider magic. Shamanism is a well-known practice existing in many forms and variations that is likely to fall under many people's definition of magic. The shaman enters into or draws knowledge from the spirit world in order to help heal. If prayer is understood to be reaching out to and employing the aid or intercession of the divine, is magic different? If so, how? The distinguishing line between the two is fine. For non-believers in a world beyond that which we can see, both are likely to be grouped into the same woo-woo or factitious category. For those with spiritual worldviews, the prayer versus magic defining waters may be muddied. Is prayer seeking the help of a positive, benevolent higher power, while magic is working with the power of darker energies? Is the understanding of which powers are positive and which negative subjective? Is prayer asking for what the person praying hopes for, while magic is attempting to order reality oneself in the way one desires? Is there a difference in the two when it comes to changing physiology and bringing about healing? I just mentioned shamanism in discussion around the last slide, so let's take a look at it a little bit more closely. Shamanism, by definition, is a tradition of part-time religious specialists who establish and maintain personalistic relations with specific spirit beings through the use of controlled and culturally scripted altered states of consciousness. So is it magic? Does the shaman consult with spirits and use their help to bring about change in the physical world? Is it science? Does the shaman go into his or her own consciousness with the aid of a substance? Is it somewhere in the middle? And again, here I've listed some really interesting books incorporating this topic on the bottom of the slide. Intention. Whereas many modern practitioners may deny using prayer, magic, or any semblance of the two in any way when it comes to dealing with patients, an undeniable component of existence for each one of us in and outside of the clinic is intention. Significantly, intention can be categorized differently than the previous two terms, prayer and magic, in that it doesn't necessitate the inclusion of any external and/or supernatural power. In a modern world of distraction from any non-physical realm and emphasis on individualism, where prayer and magic may easily be discounted, intention is harder to discount. Its existence is undeniable. How does it change physiology and affect medical outcomes, though? We've already listed some examples of intentions we're likely to engage with as healthcare providers, such as why do we want to bring patients in the clinic, what do we hope to offer patients, etc., etc. Feel free to pause this video and go back a few slides to where we went over that list if you wish. There are multiple similar ways in which the word intention is defined. Vocabulary.com defines it as an anticipated outcome that is intended or that guides your planned actions. Interestingly enough, the medical definition of intention from Oxford Languages is the healing process of a wound. Intention both affects the end outcome and helps determine what occurs in the process of getting there. It thus holds much power. The impact of intention in the world of naturopathic medicine, Chinese medicine, healthcare as a whole, and human existence in general is hard to contest. Over the next few slides, we'll go into a little more detail around intention by looking at the placebo and nocebo effects, the therapeutic alliance, and Dr. Emoto's water experiments. A well-known phenomenon in and out of the healthcare community is the placebo effect, and more recently its opposite, the nocebo effect. The impact of placebo on healing outcomes has been widely studied and is powerful enough that we deem it necessary to include in some of our most widely accepted scientific studies, which are double-blind, placebo-controlled. The placebo effect is defined by Oxford Languages as a beneficial effect produced by a placebo drug or treatment, which cannot be attributed to the properties of the placebo itself and must therefore be due to the patient's belief in that treatment. An example would be a patient is given an inert substance which he or she believes is actually a medicine, and experiences the effects that would have been expected if the substance was indeed the medicine. The nocebo effect, on the other hand, describes increased incidence of negative side effects or health outcomes when a patient is made aware that they may occur. An example would be a patient is given an inert substance and is told he or she may experience negative effects such as upset stomach. Despite the inert substance having no such upset stomach-inducing qualities in itself, the patient goes on to experience upset stomach. It's the belief that this may occur, the power of the mind in creating reality, that causes the suggested negative effects to actually manifest. Many doctors will express their belief in the vast power placebo holds. Voltaire, an 18th century author and philosopher, said, "The art of medicine consists of amusing the patient while nature cures the disease." Perhaps, at least to some degree, a doctor's medicines actually make the patient feel as though they're being treated and will heal, and thus buy the body some time to heal itself if provided the right conditions. While many of our both traditional and conventional Eastern and Western healing modalities do, measurably and scientifically, change physiology, to what extent does patient and doctor belief and intention affect how extensively and perhaps even in what manner they do so? Whether or not healer and healee believe that a treatment will be effective has been shown to impact outcomes. The role of the mind, including belief and intention, in prognosis has been demonstrated time and time again. Now let's look a little bit at the interaction between doctor and patient and how this ties into treatment outcomes. Belief in treatment effect and ultimate healing outcomes is multi-layered and multifaceted. A study published by Nature Human Behavior demonstrated that physician cues relayed to a patient, whether verbal or nonverbal, were enough to impact patient belief to the extent that experience of the treatment was affected. It's important that both patients and doctors mind their minds when it comes to what their intentions and beliefs around treatment and prognosis may be, and especially for physicians, that they take care not just of their personal inclinations, but also how their perceptions may be consciously or subconsciously demonstrated to a patient, thus affecting health outcomes. I also urge anyone interested in this topic, especially healthcare providers who want to maximize the efficacy of their interactions with patients and clients, to check out Carl Rogers' client-centered therapy approach. It goes into empathy, congruence, and unconditional positive regard, and how these three components of the therapeutic alliance can make it extremely more effective. Many have heard of Dr. Masaru Emoto's water experiments, in which he exposed water samples to various words and sounds, such as heavy metal music, a Mozart symphony, or words like love and gratitude or you make me sick, written onto the water containers, and then studied and photographed the crystalline structures of the water molecule arrangements under a high-powered microscope. The results demonstrated the unique ability of certain energies, not just sound, but also the vibrational frequency of the intention behind a word, to either shape the water structures in the case of positive energies into well-organized, beautiful, ornate patterns, or in the case of negative or more chaotic energies, into structures with a more disorganized, unsettled pattern that's not as pleasing to the eye or the soul. Especially considering that the human body is composed of 60 to 70% water, these experiments are a telling example of how the energy of prayers, magical spells, energy, and intentions might directly impact physiology. Here's that image again of some of Dr. Emoto's experimental results, in case you want to take another look. Before continuing on, I just want to note, if this is a topic you're interested in, many philosophers, clinicians, researchers, and authors delve deeply into this issue. The question of the spiritual versus material world, the interaction between the two, the impact of prayer, magic, intention, and belief on healing outcomes. Mind Over Matter by Lloyd Auerbach, Love, Medicine, and Miracles by Bernie Siegel, and Molecules of Emotion, The Science of Mind-Body Medicine by Candace Pert are just a few of many books which discuss these topics, specifically from a medical perspective. Thoughts, words, beliefs, and intentions are energy. Surely, energy affects physiology, but scientifically, how? As scientific research methods become more advanced, so does our ability to begin to understand the mind-body connection in more detail. Even if we know that prayer, belief, and intention can all affect the body, how? One piece of the puzzle may be the psychoneuroendocrine immunologic network, or PNEI. PNEI is a recently discovered pathway of communication between the brain and the body. Specifically and relevant to this discussion, it translates thoughts, emotions, and mental states into distinct immune and endocrine system occurrences. This means that something as seemingly abstract as thought patterns can directly affect something as concrete as our cells. Surely, with time, more understandings around how mind and body interface will be gleaned. And I've included here yet another book recommendation. So wrapping up in the next few slides here, but this is an acupuncturist take on what intention means in his practice and why he feels it's so important. He talks about his intention setting practice at the beginning of each treatment session, saying, "Why do this?" This is, in a sense, a quality control procedure. At the moment a patient comes in, I may be involved in other business, personal concerns, or feeling tired. Setting my intent and aligning myself in this way immediately puts me right back in the place of full presence and caring for this human being who has come to entrust me with his or her care. The shift is instantaneous. And some ideas around intention in case it's something you'd like to consciously include more of in your day. And this is for anyone, anywhere, not just healthcare practitioners. I invite you to do everything with intention. Take a sip of water and intend it to hydrate the cells of your body. Call a friend and intend to make them feel cared for and thought of. Pick up a new piece of produce at the grocery store with the intention of nourishing your body with some new, rich nutrients. Choose free-range eggs with the intention of supporting healthier, happier lives for the creatures that provide us with eggs in the first place. Step outside barefoot with the sole intention of grounding and syncing your energies with those of the earth. Take a deep breath before entering a treatment room and intend on your exhale to leave distractions and whatever of your own heaviness you carry at the door, making space for the patient to take the room he or she needs for his or her healing, etc. Now, a couple of quotes by Sun Miao, an important figure in the history of Chinese medicine. Sun Miao said, "Medicine is intention. Those who are proficient at using intention are good doctors." He also said, "Whenever a great physician treats diseases, he has to be mentally calm and his disposition firm. He should not give way to wishes and desires, but has to develop first a marked attitude of compassion. He should commit himself firmly to the willingness to take the effort to save every living creature." Thank you so much for watching. I know this is a big topic, and while I talked a lot, we really only just scratched the surface. The presentation certainly doesn't have the answers to some of these big questions, but I think a lot of the importance around these topics is just us turning them over in our minds and considering the implications they might have on our reality. So, a few final thoughts. Skeptics may say that prayer is a placebo and magic doesn't exist, maybe even that the tangible effects of intention are questionable at best. Beliefs like this depend on both the holder's worldview and understanding of the definitions of each of these terms. The fact that prayer, magic, and intention all have shown able to effect healing across times and cultures through whatever understood or not understood mechanisms and to whatever degree of effectiveness cannot be ignored or denied. One could argue that in medicine, what it all boils down to is results. Does the patient get better? Note that getting better may mean increased health and harmony on the levels of body, mind, spirit, or any combination of the three, but it doesn't necessarily need to include any particular one of the three. Understandably, a clinician may be less likely to use a certain modality or specific treatment if its effects aren't reliable or reproducible the vast majority of the times it's employed. Certainly, the definitive effects of prayer, magic, and intentions are difficult at best to measure and prove. Yet, they may deserve more attention in the scientific and medical world. Thanks for watching.